Ladies and gents, we're back, and the Forest of Death is complete. Our heroes, heroines, and yes, their rivals, and even enemies, all get to take a load off. We're taking a slightly different approach to these moments versus canon, so let's just enjoy ourselves a little bit, shall we? Near the very end of the time limit, we see Sakura, Shino, and Choji entering the tower. It's Kurenai-sensei who pops out of their scrolls. She greets them with a congratulatory smile, sure that their journey to get here was probably pretty rough. What's most important though is that they made it. She tells them the competition isn't over yet though, so they can't yet relax. Guiding them from the entrance room, Kurenai leads them to the main hall where the team finds everyone else waiting. Sitting against a wall far opposite the doors are the Sand Ninja. Tamari and Kankuro are no worse for wear, but Gaara's clutching at his head with both hands. Though the Sand siblings are trying to keep him calm, it doesn't appear to be working. Nearer, the Cloud Ninja are pacing along a wall, glancing up only to see which team made it this time. And when I say along a wall, I mean they're literally just standing on the wall and walking back and forth. I think that's a funny image. Nearest the entrance is the Sound team, who are filing out of the room as Team Kurenai enter. The Sound teams were devastated. To keep teams of 3, Dosu wanted to bring Yoroi into his group with Keen. However, whoever pulls the strings for the Sound teams decided they did such a poor job of it that all the Genin are being pulled from consideration, forcing a forfeit. Dosu is the only one who fights against this ruling. He thinks it puts Zaku's name to shame by pulling out now, not to mention making the Sound look weaker still. But his feelings are ultimately trumped by whomever is pulling their strings. Past these foreign teams, it's a relief that everyone of the Konoha 12 made it this far. Well, all except one team. At the main doors to the tower, Anko is having an argument. Standing before her with scrolls in hand, clothes muddied and bloodied, panting hoarsely, Team 7 wait for her deliberation. As she counted down to 0 and turned the key to lock the doors, Team 7 burst through them. While she was trying to kick them out, the scrolls activated and Kakashi burst out. Kakashi first tries to reason with her that he wouldn't have been summoned if they didn't make it in time. But Anko flatly refutes this by saying the key was turning, it's over. He tries to appeal to her own sense of determination by showing how committed his team was to getting through that door before time officially ran out. Anko tells Kakashi that she's the proctor, not him, so she decides who passes and who fails. But Kakashi argues that the potential of his team is too great to make them fail now. He'd understand if they were a few seconds late or longer and wouldn't fight for them to unjustly get a bye. However, what Anko's denying is the difference of a couple milliseconds. Meanwhile, in the main hall, Choji, Sakura, and Shino meet up with their fellow classmates. Ino cheers for Choji and Sakura making it through, even if it was last minute. As they join with their fellow ninja, they overhear an ongoing list of increasing challenges between Naruto and Kiba. Kiba's confidence has reached new levels as he berates Naruto for letting his team get so beat up. Naruto, meanwhile, is challenging him to go through what he went through, being outnumbered. Kiba claims he can take 3 people on at the same time, while Naruto goes on to further claim he probably could have taken on 4. This number just increases between the two until Ino punches Kiba in the head and asks him if he's trying to out-dumb Naruto. Since Naruto's team got to the tower a couple of days ahead of time, Asuma was able to come out of the scroll and assess their situation. Due to Naruto's Fox-empowered healing factor, all he needed was some rest. Hinata's wounds needed proper first aid, but considering they were still technically in the competition, Asuma had to rouse Tenten to the task. Speaking of which, Tenten's mostly recovered now. She's compartmentalized her issues so that she can focus on the task at hand. She'll face her demons later when their success isn't being challenged. Rock Lee, meanwhile, is bursting at the seams with shame. Despite Might Guy's urges for him to calm down, Rock Lee is infuriated that he missed out on everything in the Forest of Death. No matter who his opponent shall be in the future, he will win so that he can go on to impress everyone. Whoever gets in his way will have his ire no matter what. He'll eke out a victory. While they have the time, they start sharing stories about what each had to go through. The unanimous point of discussion here is the Hell Scrolls, as most of the kids still don't entirely understand what they are. Equally, no one really wants to talk about their personal experiences with the Hell Scrolls. The Sand siblings try to listen into the conversation and especially perk up when Hell Scrolls are mentioned, but unfortunately no one knows enough about them. Baki is still the teacher for the Sand siblings and doesn't seem to care a whit that Gaara is in pain. Samui stands with the Cloud Ninja as their teacher, though it's fair to say that no one of the Leaf Genin knows who she is yet. Kakashi gets annoyed that Anko is so unflinching in her decision to bar Team 7 from proceeding. Anko, on the other hand, insists that regardless of who it is, she'd make the same decision for any team. Unable to come to an agreement, they call on the Hokage, who is of course present as one of those to give congratulations. Kakashi tells him that it's absurd to lock out his team based on a technicality of how long she decided to take to say 0. Anko tries to use this against him, pointing out that she didn't even have to say 0. Time was up by that point. Minato nods at them and looks at Team 7. They're banged up and exhausted, but no less present than any of the teams in the other room. After some quiet deliberation, Minato asks the team themselves if they had to fight for their lives right now in order to proceed. Would they be up for the challenge? They agree instantly, complaining that they wouldn't have gone through 5 days of that nonsense just to give up now. It's a ridiculous premise. Who agrees to that? Minato doesn't want to waste further time, and despite Anko's complaints that too many teams have succeeded as it is, decides to allow Team 7 through. Finally joining the others in the main hall, Team 7 doesn't get to mingle with the others as Anko and Minato take center stage. Several of the Jonin present are clearly annoyed that yet another Leaf team was given a pass to this part of the exam. Samui is indifferent, Baki's irritated, and even Kurenai's rolling her eyes, convinced that if it weren't Team 7, they wouldn't have been granted the pass. To start out, Anko gives a rather elaborate speech. She tells them the role of the scrolls, heaven and earth. This is similar as in canon, how sometimes you're given an objective and you're entrusted with the secrecy of that mission. It's equally important to not peek into the scrolls' content as well as to deliver them safely. Different teams competing for these scrolls is a good simulation of being in the field and having the enemy directly attempting to subvert your mission. The Hell Scrolls are a different touch. Hell Scrolls were initially designed by the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju, as a sort of trap for enemies trying to rifle through their opponent's tools and weapons. It was meant originally as a delay tactic as well as for setting up ambushes. With the help of Kurenai, these scrolls were given a more sinister twist for the Chunin exams. The scrolls were designed specifically to show someone their worst fears or expose a weakness of theirs. They were meant for the Genin to grow beyond themselves, beyond their great fears. Everyone who was exposed to a Hell Scroll was a better person for it, as they saw some form of weakness in themselves. The secondary aspect of the Hell Scrolls were to provide great punishment for failing to hold on to one. Sometimes failure in a mission is irreversible. Anko cites the Kanabi Bridge mission, a mission whose failure may have meant a loss for the Leaf versus the Rock. Had they failed to destroy the bridge, the Rock would have never lost their foothold, and the war likely would have ended in a loss for the Leaf by now. The Hell Scrolls were meant to represent how disastrously consequential life could become by burning up if handled by an opponent team. Sasuke thinks to himself in this moment, the person he fought wasn't a Kane, but an illusion? And with that, Anko points out several records that were broken during these Chunin exams. The Sand team made it to the tower in record time, 18 hours into the first day. This of course earns a lot of hushed whispers about the Sand siblings. The Cloud team burned through 11 Hell Scrolls before successfully retaining one. Though Anko doesn't go into detail about how the Cloud team managed that, all the Genin look at them in wonder. Finally, Team 7 defeated the most amount of teams before making it to the tower, coming in at 19 defeated teams. Again, the hushed whispering returns as everyone stares at the clearly most exhausted team there. Anko says that nearly 100 individual ninja entered the forest 5 days ago, and now they're down to 18 ninja. Before she continues, Minato clears his throat, and she defers to him. Minato tells the Genin that he doesn't want to take up too much of their time, but it's important to realize what's to come in the Chunin exams. For the last 5 days, they've been in a heated contest with each other to grasp absolute victory. However, for the future of their villages, the Leaf has allied itself with both the Cloud and the Sand. Their opponents of today are their allies of tomorrow, unified against one common enemy. The reason why these Chunin exams are held with ninja from other villages is to remind each other of what the other's capable. It's a deterrent for continued war. We like to play our cards close to the chest, but while other nations know even a little bit of what we can do, it can encourage cooperation and deter conflict. And these war games that we call Chunin exams serve a secondary purpose. Genin are meant to be unlearned, unpolished, and require in some cases the strictest of guidance to succeed. Chunin are meant to be learning but polished, and require in most cases little to no supervision to succeed. They are the next step in the journey to Jonin level, where one can become entirely independent and reliable completely. In war, the less you have to watch your Genin learners, the less likely you are to fall to an ambush. Chunin are even capable of leading other Genin into battle. And at the crux of every major nation in the world, Chunin comprise of the vast majority of a ninja force. They either don't live long enough to reach Jonin, or they simply lack the skills. But at the end of the day, it's a speed bump that all must go through on their quest for greater skill and power. He reminds them all that while they're at the base level now, it only takes doing well in a couple exams for them to reach the highest levels. To become a Jonin is a different and difficult challenge in each village, but at the end of the day, why are they in this room if not to reach for the top? He clears his throat again before nodding for Anko to continue. Anko tells the Genin that there are too many of them. Due to the function and scale of Phase 3, the Force of Death is designed to keep too many from passing. It's unorthodox, but now they have to thin the numbers of successful Genin. In order to do this, they are going to reduce numbers by half, with small, successive battles between individual ninja. She understands that some of the ninja present are extremely tired and may not be up for more fighting. However, life sometimes sucks before it gets better. They will draw names at complete random, and the Genin will fight until 9 are left. The black screen above Anko begins flitting through all the Genin's names as everyone impatiently waits for who's to fight whom. As it stops at 2 names, Anko directs the remaining Genin to the above balconies so they may watch the ensuing fight. And that about does it for today's episode. This'll be it until the new year, so let's all take it easy and get back at it. Huh? Oh, the names? Right, I guess I could tell you that. The first 2 to fight are Sakura Haruno and Shikamaru Nara. It's actually going to be really fun to pit some of these characters against one another. I was actually going to do a team-based Phase 3, but at the end of the day, they're being judged individually. I can't put them in a team and just have one person of a team be promoted. It just didn't make as much sense. Same with Phase 2.5 here. There are certain ninja that I really wanted to make it to Phase 3. But at the end of the day, someone has to get axed. The Sound Ninja in particular got it rough here. That wasn't any last minute decision either, it was always my plan for them to preemptively be pulled. But if you're wanting to see any of them in the future, this is not where the Sound Ninja's story ends. In fact, it's barely just begun for them. As to Anko's greater involvement here, I don't really understand why Gecko came in so early in canon. It's not like Anko came in at the 10th question to take over. No, just for the sake of cohesiveness, Anko remains the Proctor until they arrive at Phase 3, wherein their Proctor will then change. Anyway, some of the ninja are super tired, while others are in pretty good shape. It should result in some forced creativity in the ensuing fights. Also, let's touch briefly on the broken records. I had way more teams in this part of the exam, but it wasn't entirely to conflate numbers. And it wasn't to invalidate Phase 1 either. It was to exemplify how many people are involved or affected by these wars going on. There are way more military signups in war times than there are during peace times. I'm talking in real life. This was meant to reflect that. But as a result, records got broken. As to the Hell Scrolls that the Cloud Ninja literally burned through, we'll answer that question in the future. The headache that Gaara appears to have is also a direct result of something that happened in the Forest of Death. And it's not a result of the kick he received from Orochimaru. We'll get to see some of that later as well. As you can imagine, I'll be doing a couple flashbacks for these unanswered questions, but my flashbacks won't be as all-consuming as what we see in canon. Anyway, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Until then, the sky's the limit.